I didn't realize what what Digiryder was for ages. I was like,
What do you mean?
well, the name. I was like, part of me was like, is that like when people make like a cool Hotmail, like the whole Ryder thing?
Yeah.
It took ages before I realized that was like your last name.
Is this prior to you meeting me?
Yeah, not that was a very long period.
Okay.
But even when I didn't realize your name was Jack Ryder. Like for a while, I was like, wonder where the Digiryder thing came from. Why wasn't it? Why didn't you do anything like with video? Like,
I think the main point, like when I was thinking in the start, is that I can just diversify into everything. Like,
oh yeah. So you thought that from the beginning?
Yeah. So like, I didn't have the idea because I was like, do I create websites? Do I create content? I don't know. I didn't have a real understanding of what I wanted to do. So it was just like cover all bases, make it digital, global. .com instead of .com.au.
Yeah. Well, I did .com. I don't know why anyone would do .com.au. It just seems so marginalised.
Cheaper domain, probably.
Is it actually?
Sometimes, yeah, depending on what's taken and all that stuff. But and also, but looking back now, 100% I would have made it .com.au. I would have probably, once I found my niche, would have like changed it to get that instead of trying to do everything all at once. But
so Jack Ryder, Digiryder, up until at least super recently, has been just videography, pretty much a videography service.
Yeah,
for the most part, right? When did that? How long have you? I feel like I got a rough idea, but maybe I think it's been longer than what it's been. But when did you actually start full-time video?
Picked up a camera like for the first time. I think it was like, I'd like to say 2021. Like 3-4 years ago, like first ever time.
Yeah.
Picked up a camera. But like, I think the whole idea of having like the Digi in front is because I've always like sort of been involved and liked the space of creating content. So I sort of understood the principles of like picking up a camera. But in saying that, like, the GoPro footage and making like, I made videos back in school of us doing like backflips on the playground stuff. If you count that, then but I've always loved like doing anything content creation. But in terms of actually getting like a professional camera, like 3-4 years ago.
Dude, I didn't realize, that's what I mean. Like that's because I'm pretty sure, well, Trace and I moved to Townsville in September 2022. And I met you very soon after. So that's crazy to think that it may have been only a year or so that you'd...
Oh, yeah, it would have only... Yeah, I reckon... I sort of remember when you first... Because I was, like, just beginning, I'd say. Yeah, like 6 months in.
Because in my mind, I was like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing. Which I'm not saying he didn't, but... but, I was like, oh, he's in the scene here. He must know what he's like.
Yeah, when did you pick up a camera?
Similar to you, like, made heaps of, like... Me and my mates, when we were on like BMX bikes and like when I was younger, riding bikes was like a really, like, that's all I did. And I used to like making amateur like bike videos of us hitting shitty jumps and making these fucking edits about riding bikes as a kid, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And apart from that, it's videos around the house. Like, I always found it fun, but when I actually got a camera to be like, oh, I'm actually going to try to do my best to make cool videos, was in 2020.
Yeah.
Before Tracy and I took off in our bus and did a lap around Australia, because I was like, at that time, we're like, maybe we'll become one of those travel vloggers.
That would have been massive at the time when you were
huge.
Yeah.
And we actually have 3 or 4 episodes up on YouTube. And I'm kind of like, I'd still rate them. I'm like, they're pretty fucking good vlogs.
Yeah. Cool.
But got the first Canon that I still have. It's not any of these, and a drone. And away we went. And so I actually first started making videos on the road, and then went from there. So it would have only been a little bit before you.
Probably. Like, so what did you say, started 2020? I'd have to look at the gymwear company that me and a few mates created, because that's when I first got on camera, because mainly it's becoming like looking at prices for like getting media done.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe I should just like pick up a camera and try doing it myself. And learn the craft. I like to learn whatever industry I'm going in or like tapping into. I like to learn like everything, whether it's like the accounting side of things, whether it's like setting up a company, all that sort of stuff. So like when it came to media, I was like, I want to learn how to use a camera and stuff like that. And just see how it works. And it's quite surprising because like when you first pick up a camera, I remember our first footage was like, I think it was like a GoPro I got first, and it was like shortly after that. I got like Sony camera or something, but the GoPro, like I remember like filming the footage and then sending it off thinking an editor could just make it look good.
Oh,
if that makes sense. Like, and I was like so naive
hold on
back
a minute.
then.
In the very, very beginning, you filmed something on and sent it to an editor.
Yeah. Like we went on Fiverr and I just
way.
sent it to an editor and said like, and I think I sent like, you know, we might have been like Gymshark at the time, and not realizing
as a reference video.
Yeah, like a reference video, like make it look
GoPro footage like this Gymshark video.
Yeah, pretty much, and it's crazy. Like it's so cringe looking back now because if I got that, it would piss me off if someone gave me footage and was like, try and make this and just trying to explain to them that's not how it works.
No, dude, that's crazy that like in the very, very beginning of your videography journey, you sent off footage to be edited because it takes years for anyone to let go of their footage for somebody else to edit.
Oh man, because what happened was I'm pretty sure I tried editing it,
right?
And I was like, why can't I get it to look like this?
Yeah, why
is it some sort of like special effects I'm missing?
Well, you know what's funny, especially with GoPro footage, is how they still do it, and they've been able to do it since like the first few. It's like the footage you see on the screens inside JB Hi-Fi of what looks insane, and then you take it out yourself, like. Everyone's just like, it's so shit.
GoPro is some of the most deceiving stuff like that. And obviously, don't get me wrong, the footage is probably like 100% real.
Oh, for
but
sure.
It was filmed in the best conditions.
Well, we would know how to do it.
Yeah.
We know how to do it now,
but like they advertise in a way as if just go to JB, buy GoPro, walk down to your beach and our footage, your footage is going like this, where it's not.
No,
like,
and it just goes to show you really need to know how to use
100%.
what you've got.
Yeah.
You really need to know how you. But so that surprises me because I remember. So I moved to Townsville, and so I'd been doing it for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
I'd had a few. I'd had 2, 3, or 4 clients under my belt at that point. Like, and I was pretty happy with what I'd made, and felt like I had a relatively good understanding. But I reckon there was definitely a part of me that was playing off like I knew it better than I did. And now I know for sure there was definitely a part of you that was playing off like you knew it better.
100%. I think that's like, to anyone like who is just starting out, I think it's not a bad idea to try and like, it worked for me. I sort of don't recommend it to everyone unless you can pull it off, is understanding like the business side of things and understanding like sometimes you might have to bullshit, like voice crack. Sometimes you have to bullshit your way into maybe certain jobs or knowing what you're doing. But I like back then it's crazy when you look back. I didn't have a clue of what I was doing and like.
But that's nuts because like if I met you, even inside of 12 months of you doing it, I'm pretty sure you were doing it full time.
Yeah, no,
which is
so
crazy.
I was pretty much forced to do it full time. So what happened was I was playing footy and I tore my ACL and basically like had that opportunity to like sit at home for like after the surgery and all that sort of stuff. So that was about the same time we started Vivid, and I was doing some filming for my gymwear company prior to that, like just say a few months, and I was like, well, I've really got no choice but to try and make something out when I was at home. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't in a position where like if I didn't do it, I was going to go broke or anything, but I was like, I'm going to have to go back to a full-time job. And I think I treat it as a blessing, that ACL tear, because I like realized I don't ever want to work for someone again. So that was like the best thing.
Because you're a mechanic, right?
Yeah, mechanic, yeah.
You're fully qualified?
Yeah, fully qualified, and then went and worked for my dad's business doing like fabrication and working.
Right, so you're on that relatively general like path of had an apprenticeship. In this point, it was in this scenario of being a mechanic.
Yeah.
Then worked for your dad's company. Nothing too entrepreneurial about any of this.
Nothing
at all.
Yeah,
and this is around about the same time you're playing footy. So you tear your ACL. And then on the side, with a couple of mates, blindly created this gymwear clothing line.
Yeah.
And so, because you had nothing but time and you probably wanted to promote this product, that's why you picked up a camera? Yeah,
pretty much. Like, it was either... Well, I was pretty much... I think I had the mindset if I didn't do it, no one was going to do it.
Well, that was definitely true.
Yeah.
So, but then in 6 months or so... Because I remember going home and Trace, because at the time we wanted to buy an apartment.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I need a full-time job. But I was definitely at that point where I'm like, I know I could probably make this work. I feel like there's enough, and I got enough to probably make it. This Townsville as a market isn't quite as big. I doubt there's as many people doing it. I'll be sweet, but we wanted to buy the apartment. So as you know, that's why I got the job at ARN. But I remember thinking like, fuck, I I'm like, I don't feel like this guy's been doing it for that long. He seems to be doing just fine.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
So the transition for that is I was willing to have $1,000 in my bank account. I think that was the difference between like, and also not having like a wife, kids or anything like that. So like, as soon as I tore my ACL, one of the first things I did was sell my like car at the time. So this like V8 Land Cruiser, worked for an apprenticeship to get it. And I was just like, well, that's just going to pay my salary. So like I sold that.
How much?
I think it was like 65 I sold for.
And with the intent to be like, well, I'll pay myself with this.
Yeah, so I paid off the loan, put some of it to buy my house at the time. So this is the crazy part. So like as I tore, like I think I bought the house like the week that I tore my like ACL and stuff. So like I was put in a position where just got a house, probably won't be able to work for a bit. Well, I would have been able to go back to light duties or something, but I didn't want to. I think it was like just a big wake up call. So I used like some of my money and saying I just paid myself a salary through that. I didn't care. Like I was like, if I get to a point where I'm not going to earn $1, I can always go work for someone again. Like
the house, did you say you bought that with the money that you'd made yourself as well?
Yeah, at the time, yeah.
Wow. So you just bought a house.
Yeah. I bought at a very good time, like as COVID started. So it's nothing like now. I would not be able to
this is
get
not
a house in that same situation
this
now.
This is like 2020 North Shore, Townsville. It's not, we're not talking Bondi Beach here.
Yeah.
And okay, cool. So you've just bought a house, you've injured yourself, you don't want to go back to light duties. You're at this point you would have made a handful of videos.
Yeah. And
so that's the point you're like, fuck it, I'm just gonna you sold your car, and you would like to think that surely like with a salary of $60,000 you sold your car for, that within that, like you wouldn't have to burn through all that before you were making enough money to sustain yourself. That's sort of the idea.
Pretty much. I had an idea if just say I had enough in my bank account to last me 6 months. I had a feeling that in 6 months I was going to
get it together.
And like I saw it because what happened was people started messaging the Vivid page asking who was doing the content for them.
Okay.
And so I started getting like jobs that way, and then also like my mum, she was like involved in the like tourism business and stuff like that, so she helped me out getting some connections. And eventually I met the Bitcoin Cash City owner here in Townsville and just started doing all their videos full time. So when I mean full time, I was doing like 3 or 4 a week. Like sounds cool, but it was like $150 a video. So it was like, so it ended up being like I was getting enough money, just enough to like cover myself then, like $600-700 a week. And then started getting more jobs on top of that, and then but a lot of that though, like it sounds bad now because I don't recommend this. Like I was like faking to land some jobs. Not saying I wouldn't never put myself in a position where like if I got just say a $50,000 budget job and you need like lighting crews and stuff, I would never have taken on that. But like I used to, here's a good example, like just say you do a job for like McDonald's Townsville. When you start talking to clients, instead of saying McDonald's Townsville, you say McDonald's. So you sound like you're working for the whole government as a whole, instead of an individual. So I was doing like little things like that, which is probably illegal. I'm probably putting myself in. You just like, you're not lying in a way, but you're also just like sort of cutting. Yeah, you're like cutting some of it out to make it seem better than what it is to get.
Dude, I don't think I would say anyone who's built their own anything, including their own career working for other companies, has done that. You've got to put a little bit of sauce on what you've done. I mean, it's not too different than people fudging their resume and putting a bit of sauce on that. It's the same 100%. Thing. And I think anyone, especially in the videography space, has done that, where they've taken on something and just gone, fuck, I just hope that I can pull this off. I've done it so many times. But luckily, you just sort of back yourself in and know that, look, whenever I'm in this situation, and as you know, I was in this situation today, where at some point I go, it's just a video. Like, if this whole thing, if my relationship with this client completely crashes and burns at this, like, more or less a beginning stage, it's not a heap of money. Like, literally a video isn't going to look so good. Like, and on the big scheme, this is not a problem. This is not a real life problem. So that's why I've been happy take those bigger jobs when I felt like I wasn't ready, like you said you probably have done, and been like, no, I can do that. And when I'm in the middle of this sticky situation, if I feel like, oh, is this going sideways, which luckily it never has, but I'm like, I get to this point where I'm like, it's just a fucking video.
Yeah, and you learn how to make do. I feel like that's the one thing that you can't teach, because you see so many people go to, I don't know, like take photography courses, videography, go to uni, do all that stuff, and I don't think you ever teach yourself the real life. Like, what happens if it rains that day? Your client wanted drone footage. Like, being able to handle that situation, or like, you know, just being able to, like, everything, 99% of the time something goes wrong that's not supposed to. So being able to come up with something on the spot is so important, I feel like, in maintaining a relationship with the client. And
what do you reckon is one of the biggest things that have gone wrong for you on a shoot? And it's maybe it's been your fault, maybe not. What's one of the biggest things that have gone wrong and you've had to absolutely just put a smile on your face to make the client think like, oh, this is fine, and you're like, this is in your head, you're like, this is fucking terrible.
Yeah. Nah, the only thing that I can think of, and it, like, not my fault or anything, but just something I saw while filming, is a wedding once, where the wife was the bride was coming down with her father, and they were walking downstairs, and they both fell over and just like went down like a flight of stairs. And in that situation, like, I don't know, it's like, I know it's no one's fault, but it's just like, damn, that's a walk-in. That's like your main shot, like how you can actually...
Yeah, but that's not like, that didn't...
Nah,
that wasn't your fault at all.
Yeah.
I mean, like, where you realise, like, the card corrupt, or...
Oh, yeah.
Or where, like... Or you get home and the mic was never on, or... You know,
man, that's happened so many times.
Mistakes like that, where you're like, oh, shit. Like, you know, you fucked up, but you've got to, like, cover it.
Yeah. I can't think of any exact point where that's happened, and like it doesn't happen anymore. Like, when you first start,
you told me once where you didn't record something, and then you're like, "We're just gonna do one more."
Yeah. No, that's what I mean. That's happened plenty of times, but it doesn't luckily happen anymore. But normally I'll play it off like, "Oh, I didn't like that take. We should just do another one." But it's like, I wasn't. Man, the amount of times that's happened on real estate shoots. Oh my god, where like film their intro, and then I just look down and it's not even like screen's red, and I'm just like, oh man, that takes up. Let's just like do it again, a bit more, like, you know, things like that. But never anything major where I've had like not been paid for a job because of it, or anything like that. Have you ever had anything?
No, like I said, no.
Yeah.
And my wife always makes fun of me because I'll come home and be in a huff and a puff. And I just did that shoot recently at that restaurant, where I said it just didn't go the way I wanted it to. It was like an interview shoot. I came home and was like, oh, it was windy, you know, we had to shoot out here, I didn't want to, and then I ended up I show her, and she's like, it looks fine. Like, it looks more than fine. I did a real estate shoot recently, not the best real estate video by any means, but I came home in the biggest twist. I was like, my gimbal broke halfway through, the sun couldn't have been higher, there was a few other things, and I put the video together, and she's like, this is fine, you know.
But because it's your craft at the end of the day, and it's your like work. Like, still to this day, it sounds weird, and I don't know if you feel the same. I've never had one video once where I've done and I can still say like I was proud of it, if that makes sense. The high only lasts for me like an hour. After I finish a video, I'm like, yeah, that was sick. The next day, I think it's crap. Every single, I've never
that's
had.
That's just being creative.
Yeah, 100%. I understand it. I don't see it as a bad thing. I see it as a good thing, if anything, because it makes it obviously better next time. But like, it's crazy how that works. Like, I can't look back at any of my work and like it.
In saying that, I think everyone gets that. Like, especially when you get to the end of an edit or a project, just like, I don't even know if this looks good anymore. Like,
yeah.
And I think everyone experiences that, and then you put it away for ages. But I don't know if you've ever gone through and had a look at some of your older videos that you know you did like, a handful that you were proud of, even though you have that feeling afterwards of like, I'm over it. But you go back into your folder and you go and watch ones from like 2 years ago that you know you were. Some, for me, I get surprised. I'm like, shit, that's pretty good.
Actually, yeah, now that you said that, there is a couple like that in the very early day.
I've even got a couple where I'm like, how did I do that?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, back then, I'm like, oh, I didn't even know I could do that back then. Like, but yeah, I know exactly what you mean. But the high of just creating new content doesn't last for me. But yeah, no, understanding, looking back at it.
I'm yet to have a project, and I did one, as you know, recently, where I'm like, I was sure I was going to get home and be stoked on this for ages. And even I'm at the point of editing it now where it's probably one of the bigger jobs I've done. I'm like, Like you're always like, this next one will be awesome.
Yeah.
And then you get stuck into that one and you're like, the next one will be awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know why that happens.
Do you see that as a negative though? Because you'll never truly be satisfied.
Oh, I think it's just the constant hunt for the perfect thing that doesn't exist. I think, and I like that about video, that as opposed to radio, which I've done a lot of as well, where you can actually go back and look at the stuff you made. With radio, you say some stuff and it's just gone.
Yeah, true.
Like you spend sometimes hours thinking about putting together a break or a thing or an idea for things, and it goes to air, and if no one heard it, and there's no going back to get it. Yeah, you can technically go back and download the audio, but you're much more likely to show a friend a video you made, or they're more likely to ask about a video you made.
Yeah, that's awkward when you rock up and you're like, listen to this, and like on the phone next to you, and like, and then if it's a funny moment, they don't laugh, and you're just both awkwardly sitting there like, I couldn't imagine anything worse.
How do you personally define success as a videographer or creator, and has that changed since you started?
I think if you can just make a salary, that's when I first looked at it, I think that's a pretty successful, because there's so many people that start it. If you can make enough to get by, I feel like you've made it in a way. You've beat a lot of other people in the space.
You've beat heaps.
You've beat, a lot. Myself though, like it sucks because I'm sort of fallen out of love with the actual filming side of things, and I look more of the production and behind the scenes, the business side of things I love the most, and I've just learned that from doing it. I'm just not really the guy with the hands-on type experience, which is fine. Like I've learned to, I don't know, accept that now instead of trying to fight it, I guess.
Yeah, that's fine. Like that's...
Yeah, and there's roles for that.
I think you were wrestling with that a bit, like, maybe this is not, this is a negative thing that I'm feeling this way.
Yeah.
But it's not, it's just a personality type. You're still to me a videographer, even if you're like running a videography company.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean, like, just because you're not on the camera doesn't mean you're not, that's still not like you. Like, if you were to throw Digiryder away and only make lures, then no, you're not a videographer at all. But I think there's nothing wrong with just wanting to. We're hopefully about to do a project where I'm not touching a camera either.
Yeah,
but I still very much consider it's still a videography job.
Yeah,
What
was the original question again? How do you just define
success as a videographer? It's a good answer. If you can, I think you've beat so many. I reckon you've beat 80% of people who do it if you can do it as a full-time job and just pay the bills with it.
But then I've seen it depends on what you define. Obviously, that's what I see it as. But like the money side, because I know some videographers that do it for a passion and they like shit on all my work. Do you know what I mean? Like that just because.
Yeah, but then they got to go do their day job.
Yeah, so if you define that as success and they're happy and they're not stressed about anything, I think that's more successful than.
Well, my sister has said to me before. She's like, because I think what she does currently maybe it would be defined as not as glamorous, and she has said to me before, I don't want you to think that I'm not successful or anything. And I'm like, shut your mouth. Like if you're happy with doing whatever the fuck it is you're doing, this is not what she's doing, but if you're like, I don't know, if your job is you make I had a friend who made hospital trolleys, for example. If you make hospital trolleys and you love the people you work with and that pays your bills and you have a good circle of friends and you're loving life and you don't have crazy ambitions for anything else, then you're more successful than someone that's hating their life trying to climb the corporate ladder. You know?
100%.
It's just totally like literally success is just if you're stoked, well then look no further.
Yeah.
But I said to my sister, I'm like, if you're not, then no, of course, well, you got room to grow and move, so make a change. But don't judge your success off someone else's because it's totally contextual to how you're feeling,
100%. But yeah, I don't know what the clear line is for videography in a sense. I guess if you're creating just content that you enjoy and put out, I feel like that's the best way to look at it. If you make 3-second TikToks and that goes viral and it makes you happy, then that's sick. But it sucks that the way that's going is if you actually want to tell a story and long format content, that's I don't know, kind of hard to succeed in at the moment.
Even it's tough because like if you want to do the grind and the burn and create a YouTube channel and bust your ass away at that, you can get to a point where you can just make your own passion projects that aren't for a client and that are just for your own channel. That's pretty cool. It's a bit different. But anyway, what's something that you used to do all the time in your videos that you look back now and cringe on that at the time you thought it was cool?
Ooh.
For me, I think it was Zoom
I was about to say that, like just transitions in general, certain flares. But in saying that, I still use flares now, but in a completely different way. Back then, I probably would have just had a flare on every single cutscene.
Dude, I used to think a transition like almost had to be on every cutscene.
Yeah, 100%.
At one point, I was like, that's the answer to cool videos.
Yeah.
Is transition used without even purpose.
100%. Yeah. And I think back then as well as like, not cringe, but like regrets. Like I never used to look at sound effects or sound in general. I used to be like, I'll just slap a song and over the top. I'm not going to bother like doing sound stuff. Like that's, looking back now, it's so much better once you actually edit with sound and everything.
Yeah, I knew that pretty fairly on, and I don't know why. I think it was just part of the course I was doing, but no, I was always aware that sound was a pretty big deal.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. Maybe just, stuff that I wouldn't do again is just, transitions have to be, or like bad fonts maybe. I don't know, like putting like a welcome on the start of a video with like a, I don't know, Windows 88 font or something like that.
Ends with the end.
Yeah, like things like that,
What's something you think that clients still don't understand about what we actually do? Maybe that irks you the most.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just getting paid for the video side of things and not the meetings and things like that, I don't think the clients understand the preparation and behind the scenes of everything. Getting the gear, setting up, thinking of the ideas, all that sort of stuff. Unless you're charging for them and they're joining our meetings for all that, then they can understand. But 99% of people, especially when you're starting out, you're going to be getting clients who message you and say, how much for a video? And you're going to have to quote and be able to like go through that whole process with someone who doesn't understand or know how to use a camera. So I think, just not the understanding the whole behind the scenes and all that sort of stuff. And at the end of the day, they don't need to know all that. They don't care. Like, don't use it as an excuse ever. Like, don't say to a client like, oh, but I've like, my memory card's full and I got to get another one, or I don't know. Don't try and use terms that they're not even, because that's your responsibility at the end of the day. But
man, I think if you're, and I'm in the process of phasing out of this, but I think if you're working with clients who are trying to justify every dollar that you've charged for and ask why, it's not someone you want to work with anyway.
100%. Yeah. So, but you have to do that at the start. Like that's just the reality of it, and you learn so much from that. And then you get to a point where you don't need to respond to that anymore. Or maybe another one is like them not understanding song change. That's the worst. When you like edit a full video, songs, sound effects, timing on that video, transitions match up with the beat, and they're like, oh, can we change the song? It's like, oh,
dude, part of my workflow now, and I just did it with someone, I'm so glad I did, is I actually create a small playlist of 3 or 4 songs in Envato, which I should say, thank you for the sponsor of this video. I'll put a small playlist together, send them a link, and say, pick the one you like out of this bunch. Yeah. Because sometimes it's not a good idea to let the client pick the song. Yeah. Because they won't know. But so I'm like, I'll say pick out of these 4, and then they'll pick it, and then I'll start to. I won't. Recently, I'm doing I'm doing a shoot for a tattoo artist, and I didn't even start writing out the shot list till he had picked the song. Because then I sit there and I listen to the song, and then start visualizing what it'll look like. Yeah. Annoyingly, I picked a song that I thought he was going to like, and I did cut a 30-second version of it and and then send it to him. He's like, I don't like it. I was like, okay, well, I'm only halfway through the shot list and a lot of this will still work. Yeah. But I'm like, fuck, so important. And then he picked one. Now we agree on the song, and I've finished the rest of the shot list, and I know that once I edit it, there's no way in hell he'll say, change the song. I'm like, because I'll be like, well, you picked this. Yeah. You picked the song. So it's like setting the expectation, making it really clear at the top. Yeah. But then you got to be careful because you don't want them too too involved with the creative process, because then it's just they're making the video, not you. But yeah, I think it just goes back to like, you got to just try and get yourself a client that they know that's what you're there to do. And you know what's funny? Our friend Robbie said this to me when I first got here. It was like a lot of Townsville's clientele don't have heaps of money to spend, so they are a little bit harder to work with, and just like they're watching over every dollar. If you can get a client that has the budget to spend on a videographer and advertising, that's sort of where you want to land. And that's where I also think, and we've spoken about this before, a client that has a budget to at least put it like some sort of a boost on the post. Yeah. But at best a social media ad campaign, because it's like
you can gain results.
It's so frustrating when you make a video and they don't know how to post it properly.
Yeah, that's the worst. Hey, when this happens, this episode is sponsored by Ryder Marketplace. Your one-stop sort. Definitely find the client. But yeah, obviously you got to work up to get to that stage to find those clients who don't nitpick every dollar. But yeah, definitely having a campaign and a purpose, that's the only reason why I like doing work for now, is because you can actually see results, and that's what brings like satisfaction, I guess you'd say, to anything now. Is like if you make a video for a client, that's cool and all, but if you can like, I don't know, mark up, if you can make their business, 100% more profit from that one video and stuff like that, like that's insane to see, and seeing actual results. To me, I like that. I think results are everything. Some people don't care about views and things like that, but I know engagement is a pretty good indication of if a video is good or not for me.
What's if you ran into maybe someone coming out of high school that wants to be a videographer here in Townsville?
Don't. Keep going.
I think you know where I'm going. What would be your advice to that person who's like, oh man, like what camera do I get? Or like I'm just getting started, and how do I get a client? What should I charge? Like all that stuff.
There is a good direction of like, which camera to get and all that sort of stuff, but all that sort of stuff you'll just learn. You just start by doing free jobs, which sucks. This is the only industry where you actually have to work a fair bit for free to get jobs. Like for example, like you might be good at weddings and stuff like that, but just say you want to start doing sport edits or go sport, like it's going to be very hard for you to land a job unless you're like got a high profile to go get paid for a sporting job. You might have to go to a free one just to get like a bit of a portfolio going. So I'd say like diversify your market. Just do so many things for free, because you'll learn all the like camera settings, you'll learn what to do in certain situations through all that sort of stuff. But in terms of like, equipment, all that stuff, you can go, if you got an endless budget, obviously you can start off with the best and work with that, but you're going to change everything straight away anyway. I feel like you're going to get a camera and just...
It's funny because we all end up buying really cool stuff, and I think because you get to a point where you know when to use it and why, but man, I look back on some videos I made on my first camera, my Canon 90D, no log color profile or anything. Some still look fucking amazing. And 100%. I'm like, why did I bother buying half the stuff?
All that like stuff, like your matte boxes and like all that, like they have their purpose, but it's cool when you first get into it. It's exciting rigging up a camera with like all these rails, all this stuff, but you're like, man, now I just grab the least possible equipment for a job.
I've been experiencing that lately where I'm like, this was just all a fucking hassle, and I didn't need half of this.
Rocking up to a shoot and having to carry 6 backpacks instead of 1, but in the start, it gives that image that you know what you're doing. So I did that. I thought it worked well for me. Is like, for example, using things like a matte box and rails and like big V-mount batteries and stuff like that. Like now, I'd be able to actually know what they use for. Back then, I didn't know what they used for. I just thought they look cool, and like they do look cool, and you leave an impression on clients. They rock up and they go, oh, you must know what he's doing.
Well, you're kind of compensating for the fact that you don't have a huge portfolio. Yeah. But at least your equipment looks like you know what you're doing.
And I've had, I had so many situations where I feel like that saved me, where they didn't just look at me like an idiot just because I had that stuff.
It's true though. Once you have done enough work, and it goes back to like just start making stuff. Once you've, and I'm not there yet, but like once I've got like this giant portfolio of incredible work where I've made clients a heap of money, then I can show up with minimal gear. Yeah, because they're like, well,
that's exactly
like he obviously knows what he's doing. Look what he's done before. So, but I agree. You've just got to start making stuff, and I did this a lot. I just started making videos of my travels, but then I've made so many free videos of products or things or genres that I'm hoping that I'll get then paid to do.
Yeah.
It gets seen and then I get asked to do one and be paid for it.
Honestly, that's a really good way. It's just like finding brands that like obviously don't go make an ad for Coca-Cola or something like that. They're probably not going to hire you. But like brands that are starting up, if you are just starting and you want to like, I know, just like hit up brand, I know, whether they got 10 to 20,000 followers, they probably might even end up paying you just from your work. So
I don't know if I told you this, but when we were on the road, we were in Jindabyne, New South Wales. That's at the foot of Thredbo, which is a snow mountain, but in the summer it's huge for downhill mountain biking, which I love doing. And a mate of mine on the Gold Coast met us there while we were he flew down because he wanted to do some mountain biking there. And this is while I was had nothing but time to make videos of whatever on our travels. Yeah. And I was like, dude, let me make this like mountain biking video of you, this downhill mountain biking video of you. And I remember thinking like, surely that'll lead somewhere. Like, I'll do the best I can on this. Like, surely, I said to Trust, I'm like, this will be probably hopefully one of those pieces that it gets seen. And then from then, later down the road on our trip, we ran into this guy who said he was a videographer as well. And that he shot off-road racing. And I was like, that's so sick. I would love to do that. He's like, oh, have you ever shot any? I'm like, no, but I did make this video of my mate on his mountain bike. And I showed him that. He's like, that's pretty cool. He's like, do you want to edit one of my off-road racing videos? I was like, yeah. So another situation where I'm like, did this edit for hours and hours and hours for free. Played it off when I gave it to him like it wasn't the biggest deal. He was like, that's sick. And then he took me along to the Don River Dash. Where's that? Just south in Bowen.
Bowen, yeah.
And I got to film that. And then that was the guy that put me onto Method Race Wheels that had me shoot the Fink Desert Race. Yeah. And it's like, that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't have made that video of my mate on his mountain bike in Thredbo for free.
Yeah.
So there's been situations like that where,
100%.
Make the kind of videos that you'd hope to be paid for. And if they're good, you probably will get asked to do one paid before you probably know it.
Yeah, and just being able to stick with it. It might take like a year or so, or like it's a hard one because it depends what you define success, because you can like put all effort into and make like Instagram viral videography content like by using trending audio and stuff like that, but they might not land you the jobs as if like what we're talking about. I feel like having those connections and rocking up in person and like doing things for free for someone and stuff like that is like the best way to get started in this.